Hello, and welcome to episode 3 of the Beauty and the Sheep podcast. My name is Belle, and I will be your host. And this is a podcast about knitting, spinning, and all of the fibery things that I do. I am coming to you from the greater Cincinnati area where I live with my husband and our 2 cats. So, woo, it has been a little while since I have done this. Life has been kind of crazy in the last few weeks, and I meant to get a podcast out about a week and a half ago. Didn't end up happening because there were a couple of things that got in the way, including a really unpleasant ear infection that I had. So I pushed it back, but I am here now, and I am ready to talk to you about a lot of beautiful yarny things. So I'm going to jump right in with this week's podcast. It may be kind of a shorter one because I am working this evening. So I'm going to try and get the recording done here, and if I'm going a little fast, I do apologize for that, but I did not want to hold off on recording and getting to chat with you guys any longer than I had to. So I'm going to get started this week with some Treasury acquisitions that I have, adding some things to my stash. I have not been shopping very much lately. However, I have been fortunate in that I recently won a giveaway, and that was the Tiaga Hilliards 2,000 followers giveaway on Instagram. And Tiaga sent over a phenomenal prize package that I am so excited to get to show you guys. The things that she gave me, she was just beyond too generous. So I'm going to start by showing some of those. The first 2 skeins that she gave me are from Gaven Yarns. It's hand-dyed yarns. I'll show you the tag. And these are 100% linen. I believe that the base is Pepino. And they are 100% Normandy linen that has been wet spun in Belgium. And this is the Kiss colorway. And she sent me a second skein over that I think goes very, very well with it. And I don't actually have the colorway for this one. I'm not sure if I lost the tag or if there wasn't a tag on it. I do know that it is the same yarn because the construction and it's definitely 100% linen. So I'm going to say it's the same Gaven Pepino yarn. But yeah, they are absolutely, I'll flip that around and make a match. They're really lovely together, and I'm so excited about this because I have always wanted to knit with linen. I've heard from a lot of people that it kind of has a bit of a crunchy texture when you're knitting with it, or that it's not as pleasant to knit with as some other things, but that when you start washing it and wearing it and using it, it's just kind of like your favorite cotton t-shirt, and it just softens up amazingly. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with these, but that Kiss colorway is just my mood right now. All of these sort of like not quite creamsicle oranges, but these fun, bright, peachy oranges are really like the colors that I'm kind of feeling right now. I'm being gravitated towards those quite a lot, so I am very excited about the 2 of these. So there's that. They're lovely. The next thing that she sent me in that prize package was a skein of Guage Dyeworks. And this is Guage in their classic base, which is a merino nylon 80-20 blend. And the colorway is the All Together Now colorway. So it's a self-striping, different kind of take on a rainbow, which I love rainbow yarns, like just adore them. So I am very excited about this one. I kind of squealed a little bit when I pulled this out of the package. So that's lovely. It's probably going to end up being socks for me. But I'm also maybe toying with the idea of doing just a pair of fun, stripy, fingerless gloves because I would really like this colorway to be shown off wherever I wear it. So I'm thinking about doing that just because it's lovely and it deserves to be seen. The next thing that she sent me in that little prize package was this goodie bag that has all kinds of little things inside of it. And it's a little sock sack. And that's a sheep that's wearing a Viking helmet. Oh my God. It's so cute, and I have to admit that part of me really kind of want to color him in because he just looks like a classic coloring book page, but he is just adorable as is, and I cannot wait to get a little sock inside of this sack. So I'm going to pull out the stuff that she gave me inside of here and show it off to you. First thing is this floof, this mound of floof. This is a hat pom-pom. And it did not have a tag, so I'm not sure where it came from. I apologize for that. But it is so luxuriously soft. And the yarn shop that I used to work at, we used to sell fur pom-poms that had been humanely created. And I am pretty certain, based on the feel of this, that this is a real fur pom-pom. I can't quote that for certain, but just judging on other faux pom-poms that I have, I'm going to assume that this one is a real pom-pom. Whether it is or not doesn't really matter, but just if you're looking for something similar, that might be something to type into the search bar. It is absolutely gorgeous. So I'm excited to get to a hat to put that on. I actually have a couple of hats to show you guys later on in the episode. Spoiler alert. And this is not going to go on either of them because they're not really hats that are suited for pom-poms. Actually, I don't know that that's actually a thing. I think a pom-pom could go on any hat, but this pom-pom is large, and I'm going to have a special hat that I'm going to make up for it at some point in the future. So the next thing that I have to show you, I'd like to interject here and give you a fair warning that what I'm looking at off screen is my cat, who, because I'm in a different position while podcasting today, is very, very curious about why mommy has done all this rearranging in his area. So he may or may not make an appearance at some point during the podcast. I'm sorry if he interrupts, but early in the morning, like it is, it's about 11:30 here. Well, that's kind of afternoon, but earlier in the day, he is very active and he likes to play. And for some other reasons, he's very used to getting a lot of attention right now. So I'll talk about that later on in the what's been going on in life kind of section. But if he makes an appearance, I will try and show him off and introduce him. So on with the knitting, though. She also sent me some of these from Jimmy Bean Wool. I believe that these are shawl pins. They unscrew, they're leather, and you can use them to hold your shawl closed. And she sent me these. Some are in black and some are in orange, and they're really quite fun. So I'm pretty certain that that's what these are. They the label doesn't say specifically, but these are very similar to like the Jewel JUL buttons that I have seen, or shawl closures that I have seen. So I believe that's what these are. If you are watching this and you know different, let me know. I'd be curious to see what other use that they have. But either way, they're fun. I think that they're going to make great little accessories. Oopsie. Sorry if that was loud. They're kind of hard to hold on to. But yes, so if you know of any other use for these or what they actually are, if I'm incorrect, please drop a comment down below and let me know. I would appreciate it. So the next thing that I have is this little pin. And this is the same sheep that is on the bag, the little Viking sheep. This is from Seawall Fibers. And this is my first official knitting-related enamel pin. So I am super excited. I've always wanted to start an enamel pin collection. I just haven't gotten around to it yet for some reason. But this guy is going to be super special because he's my first one, and because I think the Viking sheep is just, it kind of sings to my soul a little bit with the whole like kingdom and like Middle Ages and like thrown back history type of theming. Obviously, that's the theming I have with this podcast. So this little sheep is like so in line with my mojo. And on the back, I'm actually just noticing that there's a little story that goes along with this sheep that I did not see when I first opened this pack. So I'm going to be very excited to get to show that off or read that, I guess. I am excited to show it off. Clearly, I'm very hyper today, and I am sorry I'm rambling a little bit. I'm going to take a drink and take a breath. And speaking of what I'm drinking, today I just have some iced coffee, some McDonald's McCafe iced latte. It's just kind of a coffee kind of a day. I am a little bit tired, and I'm drinking it out of my Disney mug that we got while we were on our honeymoon. So it's really quite good. I take the vanilla and caramel flavors of the iced coffee that they have, and I blend them together. So that's what I've got. And I may be taking a few sips because allergies are making me a little bit raspy, and I apologize for that. So continuing on with what I have that's new coming into the stash in the last couple weeks. This actually did not come from the Tiaga Hilliard giveaway. However, I wanted to show it because I got it back in February, March sometime. Actually, I got it from a giveaway that Guage Dyeworks was doing at Valentine's Day. And very excited because I never win giveaways. Like it's funny, I will end up entering them, forget that I kind of like shared something or, commented on something, and just kind of forget that I even enter them. So most of the time I'm like, oh yeah, like I don't, enter giveaways. I really do. I just, have memory problems about it apparently. But this year I won 2 giveaways, and that is unheard of. So I am feeling super blessed. But I wanted to show this one because of the skein that Tiaga ended up giving me. So I have now gotten 2 skeins of Guage. And this is also in her classic base. This was a Studio Seconds that she was giving away. I'll show you the tag a little better. So yeah, this one's kind of like a gray and rainbows, and this is almost like not identical, but similar rainbows without the gray. So I was kind of excited that unintentionally I had 2 giveaways with the same yarn maker, and they kind of go together, and I'll kind of get to really see like her different styles, like ones where she might include a neutral and ones where she's got just kind of all sorts of fun going on. I'm very excited to get to knit those up and kind of get to see what they look like together, because I have not looked up to see if there are any swatches or not. But continuing on with Tiaga's prize packet that she gave me, she really was too generous. Like, she gave me so many beautiful things that I am just absolutely thrilled about. So she gave me a couple of stitchable bamboo buttons. These are by Catrinkles. Sorry if I'm butchering that in the way that I'm pronouncing it. These are a couple of bamboo leaf buttons, and you can sew them onto your knitting, and I'm assuming have some different fun with the way that you would cross the yarn or thread, whichever you're using, through the holes. So those are lovely. And then she gave me these little bone buttons, which just are adorable. At first I thought like, oh, doggies, and I'm a dog and cat person, but then I was like, these would be really cute on something Halloween as well. And these are by Incomparable Buttons, and they're handmade in South Africa. So they are really fun. And continuing on with the buttons theme, I'm actually going to pull these ones out because they've got a design on them. There are these. I believe that these are either wood or bamboo buttons as well. I'm not 100% sure. They don't have a label on them, but I love them nonetheless. And they've got kind of these like almost extraterrestrial, they make me think of like crop circles or steampunk, very steampunk-esque in my mind, which has a special place in my heart because being part of the steampunk community when I met my husband, these kind of put me in mind of that. So those are quite lovely little buttons as well. And I do not have a huge button stash, so just happy coincidence, Tiaga started me on them. And I think she might have created a bit of an addict because they're adorable. And I don't know why I haven't bought buttons in the past. And the last thing that's in the little goodie bag is some stitch markers. And these are by Riv Creative, R-I-V, Riv, on Etsy. There it is. And these are some little triangle stitch markers, which I think I'm probably going to end up using on some socks because they're really small and tiny and very, very cute. Oh, you can see them really well right there. Yeah, little gold triangles. So small things make me happy. I'm going to load my little goodie bag up here and show you the last thing that I got in the prize package, which, oh my God, are you ready for this? I wasn't ready for this. So sit down because this is absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to apologize in advance. I was so excited about this. I hand wound it up. I didn't take any pictures of it in the skein, so I'm just going to show it to you as is. Oh my goodness. This is absolutely gorgeous. This is Fiesta Yarns La Luz, or La Luz, in the Tularosa teal, and this is 100% silk. It is 100% single construction yarn. I'll show you the tag there. There it is. And this is absolutely gorgeous. I am hoping that the camera, I don't think it's picking up the shine on it, and I'm a little disappointed in that, probably because it's a little bright from my light source. I apologize for that, but it is stunning. It is a discontinued yarn. I did look that up because I wanted to get my hands on some more of it. And you might be able to find it in D-Stash, but it really is a teal. I think it's coming up as more of a royal blue on camera from what I can see, but it is a true teal aquamarine straight out of the ocean blue, and it is absolutely gorgeous. So I was so excited about this. As soon as I got the package, I wound it up and I cast it on. Excuse the green in this itty bitty little cast on. That's my provisional cast on for a cowl that I am going to knit out of this. It is the Intermezzo cowl, which I will give the details on in a future episode in my WIPS section, because there's not very much to it. This was a very spontaneous, like, oh my God, I want to knit with this right now kind of a cast on. And so I cast it on. There's not much to see of it, but I wanted to make sure to show off the yarn because this, I mean, linen and Guage and accessories. I mean, she was just so wonderful with this giveaway. I am so appreciative. Tiaga Hilliards is by far, she's hands down one of my favorite designers. I recommend her for a lot of her children's clothing, but she's got a lot of different beautiful patterns. If you're not familiar with her, please go check her out on Ravelry and on Instagram because she just has some of the most fun little kids' clothes, and her patterns are always really, really, really clear and well written. So go check her out. A big thank you from me to Tiaga. I was beyond words at this package, and it kind of came at a point in life where there's just some stresses going on, some things that I'll talk about a little bit later, but thank you, Tiaga, for brightening up my day. And yeah, thank you to the fates that be for letting me win her giveaway. It was a very well-timed gift. So, all right, I am now going to move on to some crowning glories that I have this week to share with you. And Lord, do I have some things to share with you. It's been about 3 weeks since I've podcast, and I have been in a huge mood to finish up some old WIPs that I've had on the needles. I've wanted to clear my needles and just kind of start to, freshen things up so that I can cast on some new things and enjoy the finished projects that have been sort of just sitting there waiting for some more love. So I'm going to move on with those next. And the first thing that I have to share is a WIP that has been languishing for a number of years. I actually started this probably about 3-ish years ago, when I worked at the yarn shop, and it is my 3-color cashmere cowl by Locatelli. I started this it was pretty big. It was the year that Hohi came out with it, and everybody was knitting these. And deservedly so. This is a phenomenal pattern, and all of Hohi's patterns are absolutely gorgeous. Also a huge fan of hers. So I started knitting mine, and I'll tell you about the yarn first. The yarn is actually fiber optic yarns. It is in the Cashmere base, which is a merino nylon cashmere. And it is in 3 different colors. It is a fingering weight yarn, and I believe that the original pattern calls for a lace weight, but a lot of people have subbed in fingering weights, and it works out just fine. It's just a little bit bigger and has a little bit better of a drape, depending on your gauge, of course. Your mileage may vary. But the colorways that I used were the Porcini colorway, the Mocha colorway, which is a dark gray, and this gold color is Fort Knox, which is Fiber Optics kind of classic gold. So these colors were actually given to me by a fellow knitter who had used them to make a baby blanket for, I believe it was her first grandchild, if I'm not mistaken. And she gave me the leftovers because she wasn't going to use them, which was incredibly nice of her. And I decided to, they were just partial, not official mini skeins. They were varying in how much was left depending on how much she used in the baby blanket. So, I just used what there was because I figured there was enough for this cowl. I really, really love it. It was when I was first kind of becoming a knitter with a capital K. I've been knitting for 10 years, but this was when I was starting to get into Ravelry and starting to understand patterns and do some different things. And so there are some things on it that, of course, I can't even find it now, but there are, for example, in the stripe section, if you can see it, the way that I tried to make the stripes seamless ended up with kind of a funky little thing going on in there. But that's okay because it's a cowl. It's going to be around my neck. Nobody's going to notice it. And try it on for you. So it's just a lovely cowl that sits up around the neck. You can kind of pull out different sections to show off the color a little bit more or to show off your lace section. Yeah, so it is, my ribbing doesn't want to lay down, of course. I did this on camera. So, but yeah, it's a fun little cowl that Hohi did. It's been knit by a lot of people because it's an absolutely fun little project. A lot of Hohi's things play with different colors and different textures and throw some stripes in there and some, simple lace and some yarn overs. And she just has a way of writing patterns that really keep you interested and keep you, having fun while you're knitting it. So this is definitely no exception to that rule with Hohi, and I absolutely adore it. I'm looking forward to wearing it this winter when things get cold because being fingering weight, it's a nice little crunched up cowl right by the neck. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that one. This is, like I said, it is the 3-color cashmere cowl by Hohi Locatelli in Fiber Optics cashmere yarn and some different colorways. So that's the first one. Very happy to finally have it done after 3 years. And then the second thing that I finished is a hat. This has not been languishing for 3 years. This I actually started while I was up at Rhinebeck last year. I went up with a couple friends of mine to Rhinebeck, and we all kind of found mini packs that we liked and decided that we wanted to do a little sockhead slouch hat knit along. So that's what we did. This is the sockhead slouch hat by Kelly McClure. And it has 4 different colorways in it. I did it out of Legacy Fiber Arts. And this was her mini skein Snazzy Toes, which is a 75-25-5 merino nylon silver stellina. And it had 4 different mini skeins in it. And the pack of mini skeins was called the Shrunken Heads. And it had like some Halloween themed, I actually think that, I don't want to quote on it, but I am pretty certain that each of them was themed from Nightmare Before Christmas, or at least 2 or 3 of them had a Nightmare Before Christmas reference. I do know that this bottom one, from what I looked it up, was the mayor. This one was Sally. And I want to say one of the top 2 had something to do with candy corn. Or I tried to identify that one of them was a colorway that was themed with candy corn. I'm not 100% certain on that, so don't quote me. But I do know these bottom 2 are the mayor and Sally. And this was a very fun hat to knit. I had never done, this is officially my first sockhead slouch hat. I had another one that I previously showed on the podcast that I have since ripped back because frogged it completely. I'm sorry, my cat is messing around with my TV. I'm sorry if you can hear that in the background. But yeah, so I tore out my other sockhead slouch. I will be restarting it at some point. I just wasn't thrilled with the gauge that I was getting and the way that the color was working up, and I wanted to try it on a slightly different needle. So, but yeah, there's this one. And this one, I'll try on for you. Oh my goodness. I've never had a glittery, sparkly hat before, and I don't know why, because I absolutely adore it. It's just fun. It's ribbing and stockinette, and it's a great take-along project, and it's a really fun hat. So glad to have gotten this one finished from Rhinebeck. And the last finished object that I have to show is another one that has been languishing for quite a while. And I almost still had this as a WIP to show you this week. But I ended up, I was planning on podcasting yesterday, and that didn't happen because I didn't get a lot of sleep. And by the time I got home from work, the light had kind of dimmed, and it just, I'll be honest, I just wasn't feeling it. And I was having guests over last night, so I didn't want to try and squeeze that in when I had to cook dinner and get things tidied up and, try and get my life organized. Never-ending battle, really. But because I had those guests over last night to watch the first game of the Stanley Cup playoffs, I was able to get this WIP finished, and I am very excited about it. Pair of socks. I feel like I never have finished pairs of socks. We're on episode 3 and I have a finished pair of socks. And on that note, I just have to say thank you so much to the knitting community and to podcasters who first kind of sparked me to make me want to maybe get into this. Especially a huge thank you to my friend Vanessa from the A Historian Knits podcast. She is one of the friends that I went up to Rhinebeck with. She is a lovely human being and a very, very dear friend of mine. Go check out her podcast if you haven't. She is great. She's been into it for a while. She used to be from Cincinnati, and she's moved. And she's a dear. And she, on her last episode, encouraged people to come over and check me out. And I know I had a couple people who did. So thank you so much to you guys for coming and giving me a chance, but also to Vanessa for that shout out. And just in general, thank you to all the podcasters who I watch who inspired me to give this a shot. Because when podcasters say that it can be motivational to know that you're going to record and you want to show off these things to people, it is a very good motivation. It is a great feeling. It's not a pressuring kind of like, oh, I got to have new stuff to show, but it's just sort of a I want to keep working on things. And that's part of why I had this sudden mojo to finish so many of my older WIPs, because it's like, I've got these great things that I want to talk about and share, and let's pull them out and work on them so that I can share them with you guys. And that's been phenomenal. So thank you guys very much. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you to all the podcasters out there who I watch. At some point, I'll get around to listing and naming them all. There's a lot, but this community I am so grateful to be a part of. So on that little beautiful side tangent, my finished socks that I am so proud of. This is a pair of socks. The yarn is from Desert Vista Dyeworks, and it is her solid chocolate Zombunny colorway. So this is an Easter themed colorway. If you're not familiar with Desert Vista, her colorways alternate these zombie stripes that have like these speckles of sort of like blood and flesh, I guess. And other colors that kind of theme the socks. So the solid chocolate being dark chocolate and milk chocolate. So this was a skein of yarn that was given to me by actually the same friend who gave me the Cashmere yarn that I used for the 3-color Cashmere Cowl. And I started these 2 years ago on Easter. Well, a little before Easter, hoping to have a pair of socks for Easter. And they're my first patterned pair of socks. They are the blueberry waffle socks. And I really love the pattern. It's great. It looks really great with the stripes. Like, I think it's very fun. I did an afterthought heel using the Susan B. Anderson Smooth Operator heel and Kirby Werby's cut-in method. So a combination of those two, which I think is a pretty good. Those two work very hand in hand together, and it's my go-to method for any afterthought heels that I do, and I do quite a few. So, yeah, these socks have been, well, they've been a little bit of a challenge because I don't know if that's fair to say. I made a big mistake in these socks. So I went and I did all the tubes. I did both the tubes. And I had just the heels to go on these. And I went and I put my heels in where they belonged, or put my heel in on the first sock where it belonged, and tried it on my foot and realized that it was probably about a solid 1.5 to 2 inches too long. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know if I was just having fun with the pattern, or if I did my calculations wrong and didn't give enough, of a shortening for, I think I did the measurement if I was not discounting for the heel. So I think I did the foot, the length that it needed to be if the heel wasn't going to add length to the sock. And that's how I think I made that mistake. So what I ended up having to do was go back and I just picked up stitches, ripped back, and re-knit up the toe on each of them. But because of that, it did make the socks take a little bit longer. That's not why they ended up languishing. I don't honestly have a good reason for why it's taken me 2 years to finish these. I would just pick them up for a little bit, knit on them, enjoy it, and then, ooh, shiny, and go and work on something else, including other pairs of socks, which, whatever, I'm ridiculous. But yeah, no, they're done. They feel great. I am super happy with the pattern, and it makes me want to work on some other patterned socks. I don't know if I'll do them all in self-striping. Kind of a fun thing. It was unintentional, but if you look very closely at the socks, I did match the stripes. You can actually see I even made the cuff have a little flash of that purple color on each. That's something that I tend to do. I'll start my long tail in such a way that the cast on will be just ever so slightly a different little color. It's just a fun little, detail that I like. It's something I kind of shoot to do if I can in self-striping. It's kind of a little signature thing. But yeah, you'll notice that the greens and the purples line up very, very well. And then you'll notice that the brown chocolate colors are inverted. And that was complete happenstance. I wasn't trying to do it. I did this out of one ball. I didn't split my cake. And I just must have grabbed from the opposite end that I did the first sock. But I was okay with that because I think it's cute. They're clearly still a pair. And I like doing that because I think it actually makes knitting the second sock a bit more interesting. Something in the brain just tweaks a little bit and you're like, this is a little different. And so it can make that second sock a bit easier to get through. I did match the heels, which this one ended up with a little bit more brown in it. They are identically knit, but for some reason, the green repeat on this one ended up being a little shorter than the green repeat on this one. That's okay. Doesn't bother me one bit. And the toes also ended up kind of doing something similar. So I'm not sure if just the repeat length, maybe my gauge changed. Very likely my gauge may have changed because it took me 2 years to knit these. So from when I did one and the other, it's possible that I may have loosened up. But ultimately, the colors line up. I'm happy with them. I've got a finished pair of socks, and I'm super excited. So once again, that's the Desert Vista Dyeworks solid chocolate Zombunny colorway, blueberry waffles pattern with cut-in heels from Susan B. Anderson and the Kirby Warby method. So I'll have all the details down below in the description box if you're looking for any of those methods. I tend to hobble together different methods from different socks that I've done, and sort of like, I feel like the pattern on this one, but the heel on that one, or I want to do the heel from this one with this kind of different construction or whatever. Like, I just sort of do what I'm feeling like at that time. I explore with it. And yeah, so I may do a pattern sock, but may not do, the heel that is called for in it, which I feel like a lot of knitters do that. I think it's pretty typical to kind of use your favorite heel. So don't be afraid to. If you understand the construction and you like the fit of one heel style versus another, give it a try. Maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't. So there you go. That is a pile of finished objects this week. Oh my God. I am excited. I'm excited to clear my needles. I'm still going with that energy very, very strong. And then I'm sure that I'll have a cast on party at some point. There's a lot of things I want to knit, but I also want to not forget that there are beautiful things that I start, and I have a reason that I want to do those. So here they are. And we're going to keep going with that energy right now. So I am going to move on to my works in progress, one of which is also a sort of languishing WIP. The other one is a new cast on. I'm not completely limiting myself. And there's not very many WIPs this week because of the fact that I've been finishing a lot of things, and that tends to be the way that it goes. So even with 3 weeks off from the last time that I podcast, I finished a lot, did a lot of knitting, and now I'm kind of down to my 2 little WIPs. So I'll go ahead and share those with you right now. The first one, I'm pretty certain that I haven't talked about this one on the podcast. I might have. I'm not 100% sure. But the first one is to be fair, this is all the socks episode because all I'm working on right now are 2 pairs of socks. So this is the first one. And this is a sock that I started, trying to think how long ago it would have been. So I started these shortly after I got engaged, and we had a 16-month engagement. So we're a little bit past that because we got married in March. So I'm going to say little shy of 2 years, maybe about 20 months would be my thought of how long these have been on the needles, because I did start them shortly after we got engaged. This was supposed to be my husband's socks that I was knitting him for our wedding. And the reason that these did not end up being the socks that I knit for the wedding was because originally we wanted to do a fall wedding, and our colors we wanted to be like plum and like russet gold and orange. And due to timelines, due to when venues were available, we actually ended up getting married in March and had like a very early springtime sort of wedding. And we changed our colors to just be solid plum and silver and white. And so I had started knitting these. This is the first sock. It just needs a toe is all it needs. But I started knitting these, and when I went to Rhinebeck in October, I came across some white birch yarn that was in deep plums and silvers. It was self-striping yarn. And I picked it up and I was like, these are going to be my husband's wedding socks now. And put these, excuse me, let me grab a drink. Oh, sorry about that. And I put these aside and hibernated them. So the yarn for these is Destination Yarns in her Postcard base, and the colorway was Campfire. And my husband Peter actually picked this yarn out while we were up at Yellow Springs. I want to say it was Yellow Springs. Young's Jersey Farm has a fiber festival that they do every year up in Yellow Springs, Ohio. And I believe he picked this out that day. He really, really was drawn to this. And I think it definitely says Campfire. It's not a self-striping. It is a variegated yarn, but it is pulling and spiraling, which I really love. I love when that happens in a sock. And yeah, so these are 72 stitches. His foot is about the same size as mine, but he does have a bigger instep than I do. So I did the cuff in a contrasting black from Happy Feet Yarns. And I also did the heel in that same black from Happy Feet Yarns. This is just their merino nylon. I think it's a 90-10 with Happy Feet, and it's just a solid black. But yeah, I do a little bit of an extra long heel flap for him when I do one, because that way I can pick up extra stitches for the gusset and make this area across the foot a little bit wider, because that's where his foot kind of whatever that means. That's where his foot widens out. Oh, goodness. The coffee. It's starting to get to me. Anywho, so sock number 1, Destination Yarns Campfire. And I have been working on sock number 2. It's in a slightly different place. I don't know why I haven't put the toe on the other one yet. I just haven't. It's kind of sitting there. I'm probably going to wait until I get to the toe on both and then knit 2 toes at the same time. But this is sock number 2. Even though I have knit these probably about a year apart, I am very excited that the spirals and my gauge are the same with the same size needle. I think it probably would drive me a little bonkers if the spirals were a little faster, a little slower, if my gauge had changed. So I was really excited when I started knitting sock number 2 probably about a week ago, and the spirals are pretty gosh darn close to matching. I think that's pretty close. I'll take it. Anyhow, I am through the heel flap on this one. I just need to do the heel turn, and yeah, I've got the other stitches reserved on my 9-inch circulars. I apologize for all the little stringies. This is attached to 2 balls of yarn right now, and I did the heel flap on just a separate DPN. That's how I tend to do it when I knit on 9-inch circulars, is go ahead and just keep this kind of hanging out back here almost like a reserve line, and then do the DPN for the heel flap. So that's all there is to say about those socks. He needs a new pair. I almost started him. I have lots of skeins of sock yarn reserved for just Peter. But I figured, you know what? This is the last pair that I have actively as a WIP for him. I'm going to take some time and try and get this one done, so that then I can start all the other pairs for him. So I've said it before on the podcast. My husband loves to wear his hand knit socks. I adore the fact that he loves to wear his hand knit socks. I am very appreciative that he supports my craft. And yeah, so I'm happy to knit him socks. This is just a pair that I kind of need to get through. And part of the reason that it was delayed, to be fair, was because I chose to do contrast heel and cuff in black. And black is not the most interesting thing in the world to knit. The yarn's lovely, but the color black is hard to see. And I like to work on it when I'm in a bright light so that I can see what's going on. So getting through the cuff and the heel for these has taken me about a bit of time, but I've made myself sit down. I've made myself buckle down and, utilize that whip energy that I've got right now. And actually got through this heel flap within a day. So I was pretty pleased with that. So, and then the very last whip that I have to show you is a newer cast on, and it is currently tangled up in yarn from other things. Let me fix that. It's actually tangled up in the Campfire yarn. There we go. So this is a newer cast on from a skein in my stash. I just decided I wanted to start a new sock in the middle of finishing all these other socks and having my sock mojo be like way up here right now. I felt like starting a new sock, and so I did. And this is what I've got. It's not a very big cast on. And a part of that is because I actually started these, and I started them on a US 0. And normally I knit on like a 1 or a 1.5, but I decided to give a 0 a try because of a funny story. I'm going to interject for a moment and explain why I started them on a 0. I believe I've mentioned my friend from work who I am teaching how to knit, and she wanted to learn how to knit socks. And I'm happy to report that she has finished her first pair of socks. The pair that she finished was not the first sock that she started, though, because she has become a sock addict, and I am very, very pleased with that. However, when I was helping her to learn how to cut in an afterthought heel, because I thought that that would be a good method to start out with, without having to learn too many crazy things with like slip stitches and all this on her heels to do like a reinforced heel gusset or heel flap the way I do. While I was helping her to learn how to cut in a heel, I was holding her sock and I noticed I was like, these needles seem very, very small. And I started her out on 9-inch circulars, just like I knit, and she likes those very, very well. And as I was looking at them, I decided to take a peek at what size she was using because I knew that she had ordered them off of Amazon. And what she thought were size 2 needles, which is where we had started, were actually size 0 needles. They were 2 millimeters. And so we had a good laugh because she had wondered why her fabric had gotten a lot tighter. She liked it tighter, but she wasn't sure what had changed between pair number 1 that she was still working on and pair number 2. And so we kind of had a good laugh about that, but I really liked the fabric that she was getting. And I kind of knit a few stitches on those socks, and I was like, I kind of like the feeling of this thinner thing. I mean, I already liked size 1s anyway. And so I decided to try and cast this pair of socks on with a size 0. And this is Happy Feet Yarns in the lipstick colorway. And I just noticed as I was doing the cuff that this is a little bit of a plumper fingering weight sock yarn. And I just noticed that it was too tight. It was definitely too thick of yarn for too small of a needle with how tight of a knitter I am. And so it was getting a really, really crunchy. It just wasn't very pleasant to the fingers. And I could tell that having it on my feet was going to feel really stiff. So I actually ended up tearing these out after I finished the solid chocolate Zombunny socks and cast them back on with my typical size 1. So I just have the cuff. I just did this last night when I tore it out and restarted. And I might end up doing a pattern sock for this because I just came off of the Easter socks, and I think that this speckly yarn would be really fun in a pattern. I just haven't decided what yet. So if you have any suggestions for a textured sock of some sort, this is a 68 stitch count sock. So, it can be anything that's a multiple that works with that, or if it's a pattern that's already designed for 68 stitches. If you have any suggestions, please drop them down in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. I'm sort of playing with this. I don't know quite what I'm going to do yet. And I might end up making it up as I go. I do occasionally do that. I've never designed and published a pattern, but I do like to make up my own patterns from time to time and just have some fun with it. So if you see lipstick there's anything that comes to your head, drop it down and I'll check it out. And I might end up doing that, or I might end up pulling out a Stitch dictionary and having some fun. So that is my last WIP for this week. And I believe that is all that I have to share with you. So I'll just take a moment to kind of talk a little bit about what's been going on in life with me lately. Currently, my work schedule has been changing a bit because we are having some staffing changes at my work. We're hiring in people, and we've got some people who are leaving for various different reasons. Well, that's not quite true. We have a person at the front desk who is leaving, and she's been working with us for several years, and I love her to death. So I will miss her, but my schedule has changed as we have been kind of working through readjusting the coverage where I work. So that has had something to do with the delay because I am a creature of habit. And when my schedule changes, it kind of throws me out of whack. I don't mind it. I will do it. I'm happy to help my work. But it definitely kind of throws my sleep schedule and just my body and my achiness out of whack. And so there's been some days that I've wanted to sit down and podcast, and I just was like, I will be a zombie and you guys will not enjoy it very much. So that's part of why I held off. I made mention earlier to a little bit of stress that's going on right now. My husband actually graduated from college, University of Cincinnati, a few weeks ago. Right after I did the last podcast, he graduated. He has his bachelor's in, it is his bachelor's in software development and IT. Feel like I'm saying that wrong. Sorry, Peter. I know you watch the podcast. I'm a little tired right now. He's a software developer, suffice to say. And he has his associates previously from another university. And he's been working on his bachelor's since, well, as long as I've known him. And we've been together for 3 years. So he's been working on his bachelor's. He finally graduated. Super proud of him. He's been working with a company for 4 years, so he's got a lot of experience under his belt. And he is currently interviewing to find another job now that he's got his bachelor's and continue learning and getting new experiences in his field. So he's been looking for another job, and things have been a little, chaotic because once again, schedules have been changing as he's doing interviews on this day or that day and when we're home together. And like I said, I'm a creature of habit. So it's been a little bit stressful on both of those fronts, but not anything massively crazy. And then on top of that, here in Ohio, our spring, which is kind of spring, summer, Ohio, we typically in the Cincinnati area have kind of a short spring cycle, and then it sort of just skyrockets into summer. Ohio likes to mess with you with its weather for sure. Those stereotypes are not untrue. So yeah, our pollen counts and things are really, really high this year. I do not normally have allergy problems, but on these years that are really bad, there's something that tweaks and kind of messes with my sinuses and messes with my ears. And so I'm kind of working my way through that right now. There's been a couple of days where I felt really gross. And I mean, you can hear it in my voice a little bit today. So yeah, I've held off on some of the days that I was going to podcast so that I wasn't sounding like a croaky frog and making you guys listen to me talk like that for an hour. Not so fun. So that's kind of what's been going on here. Work, job hunting. I went to Taste of Cincinnati this past weekend with a friend of mine for Memorial Day weekend, and we had a lovely time. Taste of Cincinnati, if you are not familiar, is there are tastes of different cities all over the place, but Taste of Cincinnati has the local restaurants from around the greater Cincinnati area come into the city, and they'll have samplings of their food that you buy for nothing's more than $6 for a little a sample of their food, and they're very generous in their portions. And so you can go through hundreds and hundreds of festival booths and try lots of different food from restaurants you may or may not be familiar with. They have a whole section of the festival that is dedicated to just food trucks here. And that's a lot of fun. So I got out in the sunshine this past weekend and really enjoyed that. And yeah, so that's pretty much everything that we've had going on here. There's not too much to report. I'm hoping that here soon my schedule is going to even out and I'll be able to record regularly. I think that I've decided that I want to try and do every 2 weeks. That's going to be what I'm shooting for. And yeah, hopefully the summer will even out in such a way that that's possible. So thank you for joining me today. Once again, my name is Belle. This is the Beauty and the Sheep podcast. If you would like to find me on social media, on Ravelry, I am Beautiful Sheep 719. And on Instagram, I am Belle Knits. And Belle is spelled Belle, like the Disney princess. So thanks for taking a little time to chat with me today and to enjoying some knitting and fibery things. And I hope that you are having a lovely early summer and have so much fun with your knitting. Have a good day. Bye-bye.